I don't know. What do you lot think about this hat? Right now, it's saving my life. I've not had a haircut in about 2 months, so what's underneath this is diabolical. My head just doesn't agree with caps, like normal caps. I just look stupid. Beanies, we can just about, I can do a beanie. Normal cap, no. So I feel like I'm more of a top hat kind of guy. I'm feeling it. What is good, everyone, and welcome back to another video. Now, today we're talking photo editing, and as a matter of fact, photo editing mistakes. So these are a few things that I have collected together, which I think would be beneficial to tell you guys if you are beginner photographers or you are quite advanced photographers. You may be doing a few of these things, and luckily I am here today to help you out, because these things that I'm gonna list or I'm gonna mention in this video, I am guilty of doing all of them. Let's actually start off with the first one. Nice and easy, very quick off the back, is just simply taking a break. I will stare at an image, will be editing a photo for hours and hours and hours, sitting there doing all my adjustments, flicking all my switches, doing all the things that I normally do when I edit pictures. And after a while, you're sitting there, you're looking at it and you think, oh, this looks good. But then it's not until you go away for a couple of hours, or you go to the gym, or you have a little sleep and nap, have some dinner, you come back and you think, what the hell was I doing? Just having a break away from the desk, away from the PC or the computer, or whatever you're editing on, having a break, going back to it. If you're struggling with editing or you just can't get it right, it's great just to have an hour, maybe 2 hour break, come back, and then you'll figure it out. That is the first tip. Very good. The next thing we're going to talk about is overusing the fade in the tone curve. Now, this can be caused by one of two things, right? So the first thing being, you're getting a little bit carried away in the tone curve and you're creating too big of an S curve, resulting in the picture getting a little bit too much of a faded look on it. Now, the second thing, and this is probably the most common reason for this happening, is if you have presets installed on your Lightroom, especially ones that you may have already made, and then you apply that preset to another photo, sometimes the fade can end up actually making the image look worse. So this is a picture, or a picture that of me as an example, where I've finished it, I've edited it, but the tone curve or the S curve is a bit too mental, because I've applied a preset to this, and as a matter of fact, it looks okay, but again, the fade just isn't, it just doesn't look right. So all it is a matter of just getting at the bottom of the S curve and just bringing that down ever so slightly, just to bring less fade into the image, because sometimes you might be a fan of fade, but for some pictures it can actually end up ruining it. So if you just bring the bottom of the tone curve down just a tad, just not too much, sometimes a little bit of fade is good, but for example, with an image like this, I just don't think I need that much fade on it. And as you can see, it does change it dramatically. So just something to bear in mind, if you're applying presets to your own photos, the fade can almost kind of ruin an image, which some people may not actually realize until they get the picture on their phone or they're seeing it on a big screen. And once they bring down that fade, they see a massive difference. So that is it. Fade. Don't overuse that fade, because he's not your friend. Next, we have cleaning up distractions in your photos. Now, when I first started doing photography, and you lot know that I started doing street photography, a lot of the time I was taking pictures, in the streets or of my friends and streetwear and all sorts of things like that. And because of the city that I am in, especially London, you get just so many things in your image that can distract from it, such as, just something simple as having chewing gum or chewing gum marks on the floor. Just by removing things which distract from your image can actually really help change the way that image looks. And this is something that I'm very guilty of, because I never used to do it. I just used to edit it and then just send it how it was, or used to upload it how it was. But then ever since I actually just took the time to clean up any distractions in my image, it just makes it look way better. So here's an example of a picture of me by the waterfall. Again, shot a lot of pictures from this location, but as you can see, I'm standing on this waterfall, really cool looking landscape, but on the rocks there are these shells and these kind of white dots all over the rocks, which are dark. And it's very, very simple just to get rid of these things. You can do one of two things. You can either go in Photoshop, which is what I do mostly, and I just use the spot healing tool, or you can use the spot healing tool in Lightroom. And it's quite time consuming depending on the photo. For something like this, probably take like maybe 5-10 minutes to get rid of absolutely everything. It makes a massive difference. And I'm just gonna quickly speed this up here. And this is a before and after of what the image looks like after I've sort of cleaned everything up. As you can see, it's way cleaner and it's way less distracting when you actually look at them side by side, especially if you're doing photos for a client. It just looks better, and you want to deliver, you know, images that look great and that you're really happy with. So just taking that time to get rid of distractions can go a really long way. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about, and it's probably the most cliche one of them all, right? And you lot probably know what I'm going to talk about, and that is overusing the clarity slider and the contrast slider. Now, again, something I'm very guilty of. When I first started using Lightroom and I first started doing photography, I used to abuse the shit out of that contrast, the clarity slider, whatever, both of them. I used to abuse both of the contrast and the clarity sliders just because I thought it looked good. You know, adding a shit ton of clarity to my image. I thought, yeah, this is photography. Like, I'm sick. Clarity 90, let's do it. No, that's not the case whatsoever. It just makes the image look like it's printed on, I don't know, like in sandpaper or something. Overuse of the clarity slider is and can be quite a big problem for beginners, as we all know. And it can also lead to some negative artifacting in your image. As you can see from this picture here, if I actually bring that clarity up, you will notice that you get this sort of halo, especially if you're shooting, you know, like landscapes or pictures of architecture. If you bump up that clarity, you get this sort of weird sort of halo outline around the things in your image, which just looks weird. Like, it just doesn't look good. And it's something that, you know, can happen if you just completely abuse that clarity slider. You just want to bring that clarity down, especially for an image like this or for a landscape or anything similar to this picture that I'm showing. You just don't want to abuse that clarity slider whatsoever. And the same thing comes into play with the contrast slider. You know, if I bump up the contrast by a shit ton, it still just doesn't do the photo any justice. It makes it look fake. It makes it look just too over edited. Now, another example, which I'm going to quickly show you, is a picture which I actually took where the clarity, once you bump it up a little bit, looks pretty good. And this is an image where you can get away with using a bit of clarity, but again, not too much. Like here, you do not want to put that clarity up because you end up getting weird textures in my skin. I end up looking like 90 years old. You don't want that. A little bit of clarity, especially for images like this, is good, but again, you just don't want to overdo it because you do get artifacts, like I said, in the image where you just doesn't look good and it just looks fake. It looks like, you know, you've printed it on a rock or something stupid like that. Now, you lot will know I'm a big fan of street photography, and for a majority of my street photos, I actually like to keep the clarity more towards like the negative side of the slider. So like I said, -20, -30, because again, it can just make the image look a bit weird and, you know, create this sort of halo thing like I was talking about. It just, yeah, for street photography, that's what I would highly recommend. And maybe you lot who are also interested in street photography, giving this a go, next time you go out and you edit these images, try not to go too mental with that clarity slider. Okay, and the last tip is don't neglect the brush tool. An example of this, if you are shooting a piece of clothing, like, I don't know, something like this that I'm wearing, or you're shooting, I don't know, a jacket, or not even clothing actually, just products or like watches even, or food. As a matter of fact, you can put this into play with doing food photography. Just don't neglect the brush tool. Now, the brush tool was something that I sort of didn't really care about when I first started photography, but it's something that can actually really dramatically improve your photos. Firstly, like I said, if you are working for a client, for this picture, for example, of Tommy wearing a Canada Goose jacket, the logo, because you're shooting for Canada Goose, you want the logo to stand out. You want to send over this image to the client and they want to see that their logo is very, I've forgotten my words here. Other words for stand out. They want their logo to be very noticeable in their image as they're paying a photographer to photograph the product. So you want the logo to stand out as much as you can. And one way to do this is just by using the brush tool, just simply going over to the image, brushing over any logos or any details on the piece of clothing, or as a matter of fact, for this piece of clothing, the logo on the arm. You just want to use that brush tool, color it in, and then obviously go around it very carefully, erase any bits that you haven't sort of or didn't want to select, and just bring up the exposure, bring up the whites and the shadows, and maybe even a bit of saturation, just to make that logo pop, make it stand out amongst the rest of the image. And like I said, this technique can be put into play with anything as well as, you know, fashion or clothing which has logos on it. So if you're taking pictures of food, for instance, you want to sort of, you know, highlight an area of food where you might be pouring some sauce onto something, or there might be like a brownie or some sort of dessert with like a nice glaze of chocolate mousse or anything. I'm trying to, like, you know, give examples here, but you just want to brush over these little assets and just sort of make them pop a little bit more. And one way to do that, again, is by using the brush tool and the radial mask or the radial filter. But again, the brush tool, I think you can get a little bit more precise, you can get a little bit more accurate, and you can really isolate certain areas of your image. Brands and clients that you're doing photography for will really appreciate that, because they think, wow, you know, the image or the item that we have given this photographer or this person to create content for us, they can really, you know, we can really see the logos, we can really see the details standing out in the image, as opposed to it being like too dark and they come back to you and they say, can you brighten this area? Is there a possible way to do that? It's just something to keep in mind, and something that will probably make your life easier and make you look better as a photographer and make your clients or whoever you're working for really happy. With that in mind, after you finish watching this video and you hit subscribe and you like it, go out with your camera and create some cool stuff and be proud of your work. Post it online, take some of the things that I have said in this video, put that into practice. Don't forget to leave a like rating, subscribe if you are new to the channel. I've been working on some really cool content from Dubai, which I am psyched to post in the next coming weeks. So hopefully you lot stick around for that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon in the next one. Take care. Peace.